I'm Anouk van Klaveren. I'm working as an independent artist and designer, and I also teach in the WdKA Academy, where I guide first-year students in their design projects, and I do this together with Pauline.
Yes. And I'm Paulina, and I work as a XR educator, and at Willem de Koning I work as an instructor in the transition to digital craft.
The module we developed is basically designed to get students informed with digital working methods. This means that we give them actually 2 assignments in which they combine working analog and in digital processes, and we aim them. What we aim is that they become very confident and natural in combining digital and analog processes to expand their creative abilities. For the assignment we designed for this module, we ask the students to pick an apron. And this apron can be something that's near to them or they find remarkable or special. After they have prototyped their apron as it is, then the designing process starts. So they will actually start to modify in various dimensions. So they study the volume, for example. It's how can they start to create by adapting the volume. But also how is it worn on the body? Which bodies do usually wear this apron, and how can I change this by how does it tell another story when I place it on another body?
We want to show the students that there are many similarities within the physical and the digital, and how these different processes can complement each other, and that going digital doesn't necessarily mean lack of craftsmanship. And we also want to show that it's actually more accessible than they might expect. Sometimes there's a barrier that they think it's very difficult or something that they might not fully relate to. And for this reason, we created some initial tasks that really are bringing together similar things that you would do in the physical world. And we started by doing draping, pinning, and working with silhouettes with the support of the design teachers, because this really helps the students to kind of understand what is possible within digital programs. In this case, we use Clo.
We think it's very important to introduce students to this digital way of working. And this also means how do you actually organize a digital design process, because we think it's very important to not introduce them to clothes really just as a tool, but also as a way to create. So it really offers different opportunities than maybe a physical design process would offer. In the simulation program, it's very easy to swap around colors and weight of the fabric, volumes, whereas in real you would actually need to buy all these materials and then execute it to actually be able to compare it. And this actually created a lot of freedom for them to experiment.
Yeah, exactly. It shifts the boundaries from what they're expecting to be able to create, because otherwise it's also about inclusivity. Maybe they do not have access to the materials, but it's not necessary to have direct access to be creative, to explore. And also it's also a good way to experiment with, we don't talk about it directly always, but physics. And then they realize, oh, this material does this, it does that, and it gives them a better understanding of what we can work with and how.
The students get 2 assignments. In one of the assignments, they actually start with a digital designing process and end up with a physical garment. And in the other track, they actually start with an analog way of working, collage, drawing, and they do this manually, but they end up with a digital design on an avatar in a simulation program. Yeah, so by offering 2 assignments simultaneously, the students go through the whole creation process in actually 2 parallel tracks. So when they are designing in one assignment, they're also designing in another assignment. But the tools, how they do it, is actually the opposite. So one is digital and one is analog. And by doing this simultaneously, they automatically compare all the time, like what is easier in one way and what is working better in the other way. So we think it's very important to run this tryout like simultaneously, so it's really also informing each other, and we could already see that students start to see the possibilities of the two and start to mix also.
When they're making things digital, we remind them that at some point it will go to physical. And then we also try to encourage them to be conscious about that. We do guide them on how to use the tools, how to prepare and make this transition, but we remind them about these considerations as well.
Yeah, so in every step they take in their design process, they can simultaneously check like how many meters of fabric is this idea actually consuming, or how can I maybe make the pattern more economic so it's like less material to be used in a later stage. And I think to have these possibilities while creating, you create a sort of possibility to have a constant awareness of this. In the project, we aim to introduce students to thinking about being more inclusive and diverse in their design approach by making it very personal. So we ask them to develop their own angle on this apron, like how is my perspective actually different than that from my classmates? So how is like already all these views that they bring in the class already bringing such a diverse idea of what is an apron. So I think it's in that sense embedded in the assignment that the apron can mean many things, and I think it's very important that they start to notice that their personal perspective is a personal perspective. It's not how it's supposed to be, it's not the apron or the way of doing things. So we really try to challenge them to bring in all this perspective.
Within the software, within the tool, we approach diversity in different ways. First of all, we reminded students that there's a user and that a user can be very dynamic, and it's not always what we envision the user to be. And we also suggested to challenge who they expect the user is going to be, because within the program you have certain sizes, certain ethnicities, but diversity goes further than that, and inclusivity as well. So this is why we were showing like them how within the tool they can already start defying this status quo, but also to think a bit further when combining it with an actual design.
So for example, one student is creating an apron design in which she combines the apron with a image of a curtain, because she feels that women are treated as curtains, and her starting point was actually a maiden apron, so it was really about like domestic work and woman as a housekeeper, or in this very domestic environment. And she actually wanted to challenge it, or actually critique it or question it, by making a design where she actually transforms this body to like sort of curtain-like apron design.
Like objectification.
Yeah, and she's really questioning this objectification. So I think this is an example of how students bring in their perspective to be critical about the world they live in, but also to bring in their perspective, for example, as women or as people with other cultural backgrounds, to challenge these sort of norms by designing. Yeah, what I think what worked out very well is that already they start to see the creation process as very equal to each other. So in my brain it would still be like the old way of doing, the new way of doing, but for them it's really one, because they went through it like simultaneously, and it's actually their first year, so this is their training. So I think that's very surprising how they pick up so easily and really think about ways of using the tools that we as teachers would never came up with. And I think that's very important because it's like a new territory that we're exploring. And of course, my design background is different and I don't have this experience. So it's really good that they bring in like their fresh eyes and they really see opportunities that maybe we as teachers have never thought of.
Different creators have different approaches, and what was very positive is that how much they support each other within the process. If someone really was able to tackle a specific technique or tool well, they were really open to showing it to each other and teaching each other. And then gradually you also saw that they were more open to come to us for questions and for support. So I think we just give them a bit of space to understand what's possible, and then they become more receptive as well.